This slide will be up as people are coming in, and then we'll have some sort of introduction. And then, thank you for coming tonight. My name is John Wolforth, and I have lived and worked in the area for the past 24 years. I've seen many changes, some good, some not so good. Started thinking that addressing the not so good would require more focus on the personal level. 5 years ago, I learned about this organization. I won't provide any examples at this point, but I'm sure most of us have a story about divisiveness in our lives or in our community. I want to take a look at that personal cost of political polarization. First, let's take a look at the word polarization. Let's consider a more specific term, affective polarization, that relates to our emotions and our attitudes, because that's what Brave Angels tries to get at. Polarization is simply two groups divided, no common ground in sight. Affective polarization starts by looking not at the differences on the issues, but the emotions that lead us to see those differences. To alleviate polarization, we could all become centrists. But we know that won't happen. And I don't think it would be good if we did. If we address the affective polarization, we might find there's actually common ground that we weren't seeing. And hopefully, we also find we can respect the opposite point of view, even if just in part. And more importantly, respect the person who holds that point of view. Here's the mission of Braver Angels. Braver Angels brings Americans together to bridge the partisan divide and strengthen our democratic republic. We have a pledge that includes the phrase, as individuals, we try to understand the other side's point of view, even if we don't agree with it. Admittedly, that's difficult, and so we recognize the need to listen and then try to understand. Another part of the pledge says, in our communities, we engage those we disagree with, looking for common ground and ways to work together. I want to be clear about common ground. People sometimes respond to me as if I'm asking for compromise, and that's very different. I'm not against compromise, but it's not a skill that these workshops address. Through the exchanges and exercises, and after applying the skills in my daily life, I've noticed that common ground is already there in places I didn't see it before. This engagement is, admittedly, a challenge. But as an organization, we look to have those conversations that may, and may not always, lead to common ground. One way we accomplish these goals is with a rule that seeks to have red and blue leaders at every level of the organization. Now, having said that, we admit that our organization currently has more blues than reds. We are actively seeking more red participation. I think northern Minnesota and northwest Wisconsin is a perfect place to find people willing to come together. Braver Angels seeks to reflect America regarding race, ethnicity, and social economic class. Our constant striving is to be an organization that reflects the country we seek to serve. Our work at Braver Angels is to build a house united. And although what I've told you so far might make it seem as if we are an organization of just reds and blues, we welcome people of all political stripes. We have members who declare themselves as independents or others, or some may call themselves purple, a mix of red and blue. Others and independents can take part in almost all of our events, and we welcome their participation in helping to build this house united. Our efforts will take every one of us. And we could put a movie here of some kind. I'm going to move on from that for now. Braver Angels began right after the election in 2016 and has undergone some dramatic growth since then, including major media exposure, researchers studying our methods, and even working with some members of Congress to turn down the temperature. I know that's kind of small. I have this slide up here on paper if you want to take a look at it, and I can get you links to the studies that I referred to. In general, 70 to 80% of participants in workshops report better understanding and change in perception, which may lead to change in attitudes and action. So here's something important. It rarely happens that two people who disagree and are talking, and one of them suddenly changes their views, especially if they're strangers. That is, if they're not already in a relationship of trust between the two people talking. Our goal is not to try to make people change their views on the issues. But in the workshops and the other work we do, people do consistently change their views of each other. This is consistent with our goal to reduce affective polarization. It helps people let go of stereotypes. And I think all of that will allow us to eventually find more collaborative solution to our country's problems. Personally, I wouldn't do what I'm doing right now if I didn't believe that. I believe when we truly begin to turn down the rancor, we can become more willing to take a deeper dive to discover there might be valuable information from a different perspective. And Braver Angels has begun to do that work as it has grown. It started with the Red Blue Workshop, then more workshops, and then groups that take a variety of actions. These include special interest groups, like Angels of Color Caucus, to encourage people of color to join Braver Angels and provide programming of special interest to this group. They're a mix of red, blue, and others who do not identify as white or Caucasian. Working People's Project, a politically and racially diverse group of working class Americans, people who don't have a 4-year degree. The Red Caucus, designed to strengthen the participation of conservatives and libertarians within Braver Angels. Military and Veterans Group, bringing the core values of service and teamwork to this effort. And where do you fit in? There are so many answers to that question. The most immediate answer I have is an event coming up right here in Duluth. For me, it's been great, driving 100 miles to do workshops and participating in online discussions from the comfort of my home. But I've always wanted is to be around more people who want to practice these skills and bring them to bear on issues affecting our lives right here. You can help by joining our efforts. We invite you to check out our website, braverangels.org, as seen here, or simply text BA to this number and it'll get you there. Keep in mind, this website is a national site, not just this area, so it gives more information about all of the programs and how you can connect with them. Through emails we will be sending out, if you want those from us, and through the searches available on this national site, you can stay in contact locally. You can support us by becoming a member for as little as $12 a year. There are podcasts, online discussions that aren't workshops, and connections to more ways to reduce polarization. So I'll end with a quote from Abraham Lincoln. The angels part of the name comes from a quote where he says, "The better angels of our nature." I'll leave you with a different quote. I hope tonight has given you appreciation of his wisdom. He said, "I do not like that man. I must get to know him better." Thank you all for coming.